What's going on, 49er fans? I'm Jason Aponte. This is a special solo edition of 49ers Talk. We're going to be talking 49ers Raiders joint practices, what the hell's going on with these injuries, and a little bit of what to expect on Saturday and what's going on with the content tomorrow. So, thank you guys for joining me Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. You know, the 49ers were in Vegas and they held their joint practices, and we're going to talk about everything that went down in these practices, from the people that were there and the people who had eyes on the things. I don't have too many strong opinions other than, kind of going off of the reports from other people. But I have my article here that I wrote, three winners and losers from the practices. So I guess we'll start with the big news, obviously, is the Nick Bosa did not practice, neck soreness. Ben Barch has an elbow injury. Kyle Shanahan said that he's going to be out for a week. Jason Pinnock and Trey Brown both have heel injuries. Trent Williams had a vet day. Spencer Burford filled in for him. As you found out today, Andre Dillard was put on the IR, the season-ending IR. Not really a big deal. That's the cliff notes of my thoughts on that. That wasn't going to make or break the 49ers offensive line. So Spencer Burford is your left tackle. That'll be backing up Trent Williams. Connor Colby and Nick Zakelj rotated at left guard. I thought that was really important to note because when Barch first went down with the injury, it was Connor Colby that went in there first instead of Zakelj. And Zakelj had been running ahead of Colby when Barch was out. So it felt like after the Denver game, they had made a switch. But I'm sure in an effort to keep everybody very fresh because it was about 98 degrees out on the field, they went and they used both these guys. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I still would think, depending on how this game goes on Saturday, the either player, if they show out, is going to be the one who takes the little bit of the advantage. So, and then I'll just run through the people who were out. Upton Stout, calf, out. Yetur Gross-Matos, knee. Renardo Green, hamstring. Michael Williams, hyperextended knee. Jawan Jennings, calf. He was there and working out, by the way. Jordan Watkins, high ankle sprain. Richie Grant, knee. Jordan James, broken finger. Isaac Guerrero, shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure what's going on with Fabian Moreau. Robert Bill Jr., groin. Kevin Givens, pec. Sam Okonkwo, I don't even know. Jordan Elliott, back. I mean, this is a ridiculous um, bunch of injuries to this defensive line. Now, we have to add what happened in the practice. CJ West got rolled up on, and it was a hyperextended knee. Kyle Shanahan said he felt like it was the same thing that happened with Michael Williams, and that he felt like it's going to be the same timeline. The ACL went through tests, so we can talk about that and we can make sure that we keep that up. It's not done, right? So the ACL's there, it's intact, it's fine. So I mean, that's what you just have to kind of take it for what it is right now at this point. And I know that people are a little bit hesitant when it comes to what the 49ers give out in terms of injury information. But winners from today, it's got to be Ricky Pearsall, right? Ted Gwynn, who does a great job, he's been observing some of the 49ers practices, and he's a impartial observer, right? He doesn't cover the team. He doesn't have anything bad to say. He's just watching. He said he had a really good practice today. There was a long touchdown in between both Raider safeties during team drills, and it felt like he was ripping off catch after catch. Now, we can get into, well, it's the Raiders. Well, they're not that good in the secondary. I mean, that's fine, but wouldn't you want to hear that he's beating up on guys that he should be beating up on, and that means during the season when he has those high advantage matchups, he's gonna take advantage of them. See, for me, like I don't, I can't say anything other than he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, and he continues to stack days together. I think the goal right now is for this rapport between him and Purdy to continue, and for him to just get to week one because we don't know the shape of this wide receiver room at this point, right? Who knows if Jawan Jennings is going to be ready? Who knows if Jordan Watkins is going to be back? Demarcus Robinson could lose a bunch of games to a suspension, and Rashee Rice's thing is kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's in the way because it's two different things, but Rashee Rice you're going to find out during the year what type of suspension he'd get, but I would suspect it's probably more along the lines of the Jordan Addison 3-game suspension since it's the same type of case. But Pearsall's going to be the guy, and it's going to be Pearsall, McCaffrey, and Kittle that are going to have to carry this offense. And for all intents and purposes, throughout this entire training camp, all three have been great. Speaking of Christian McCaffrey, he's got it. He's got number two. So joint practice offered a glimpse of McCaffrey's potential usage in 2025 after returning from a knee injury. McCaffrey was involved with nearly 15 touches. If Cam Inman was the one who put it together, I think it was 8-4 or 8-6 So eight rushes, six catches. Kyle Shanahan said that he looked like he's getting close to his speed from 2023. Brock Purdy went crazy and said that his mindset is crazy and he's on one. He's as fast and as quick as he's been. He's Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Shanahan said that. That's really good to hear, honestly. And then Chase Lucas is another winner. With the defense only having three starters on defense in this game, in this practice, my goodness, this game, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore, and D Winters, Upton Stout's probably going to be the starter, but Chase Lucas is really making a case to make this 53-man roster. He had an interception today off a bounce off a receiver's hands. So, while Stout's injury is not considered serious, Chase Lucas is making his spot, man, and it would really benefit this secondary to have a guy who has veteran presence and has played and can back up Upton Stout in case of any injury or in case of any play slip or anything like that. So those are my three. I've got Christian McCaffrey, I've got Ricky Pearsall, I've got Chase Lucas. The losers are the 49ers defensive line. Look, it's getting scary. Nick Bosa, we expect him back next week. That's fine. I don't care. I just need him week 1. You need to just keep him away from everything. But the Michael hyperextension, CJ West hyperextension. I mentioned all those names before. It's getting really, really, really scary right now when it comes to the defensive line and what they're gonna have to bring in and who's gonna have to be here and who could possibly be playing in week 1. No two ways around it. I mean, again, only 3 starters for the defense today: Diamador Lenore, Fred Warner, D Winters. But man, it has to be very much like, please just keep this team healthy going through this game, man. And this is gonna be unbelievable to go through, right? Like it's just when you're looking through this team, you're looking through and you're seeing names that are just who's this guy, who's that guy, who's this guy, and just it's I guess this is a good place to segue into kind of something I wanted to talk about. So everyone wants to get to the bottom of why these injuries are happening, right? Is it stretching? Is it the strength and conditioning coach? Is it the trainers, right? Are the 49ers just cursed? All of these things have been floated out there. Well, let's start with the stretching part. I understand the idea of wanting a different stretching routine, right? If there's soft tissue injuries. Renardo Green has a hamstring. Ricky Pearsall has dealt with the hamstring. Everybody's, the calf, all that stuff. Okay. What does stretching have to do when your shoulder gets a chip in it? What does stretching have to do when you get rolled up and you have a hyperextended knee? What does stretching have to do with when your elbow gets hurt? I think there's multiple ways to attack this, and there's more pieces to the puzzle. But this idea that stretching magically is going to solve all the 49ers injury problems, how can it stop a hyperextended knee, somebody rolling up behind CJ West? How does it stop someone stepping on Kyle Juszczyk's Achilles and him missing a few practices? How does it stop Isaac Guerrendo's shoulder from getting hurt? I think the crux of this, the real problem is the 49ers continue to invest in players with checkered injury history path. Now, just stay with me real quick. Just stay with me. Ricky Pearsall, hamstring, soft tissues, that happened in college. Happens here at the pros. Knock on wood, he's good. Christian McCaffrey had injuries before he got here because of his workload. The one season, he got hurt. Happens. Trent Williams never plays 16, 17 games. Doesn't happen. Kittle gets hurt once or twice, we got lucky that he had him 16, this season, or 17. Brandon Ayuk was never somebody who really got hurt. D Winters is somebody who constantly gets hurt. I think we have to start thinking about this a little bit differently. Is there a way to fix it? Sure. But they invest too much sometimes in players that have issues with injuries, have checkered injury paths. And then they get shocked when those players get injured. So this idea that stretching is going to be the way that the 49ers stop hyperextended knees from happening and shoulder injuries, and that has nothing to do with that. What does have anything to do with it is the people that you have invested this draft capital in, the players that you bring in free agency. Everyone knows they're injury prone or they have injuries. So the stretching thing, I think I can understand if it comes down to calves and hamstrings. Cool, I get that. But stretching is not going to stop hyperextended knees and pectoral injuries to Kevin Givens. Like that does not correlate. It just doesn't. Ben Barch's elbow has nothing to do with stretching. The strength and conditioning coaches. I don't know, man. They brought in those hockey guys, right? Like whatever it was, and then 2023 the 49ers had insane injury luck. Almost the opposite end of the spectrum with what the 49ers had always dealt with under Kyle Shanahan, which is, being banged up all the time. A little bit of blame in the beginning has to go to Kyle Shanahan as well too, especially in the beginning years, because he would run those practices too hard. And he would have those guys out there early on when they should be kind of getting into the flow of things, hitting each other as hard as they can. And, it's a physical sport. Injuries are a part of the sport. Now, injuries of this magnitude or this number, that's completely different. There's different ways that you could look at this and you can categorize it and say that, I think it's a little bit of column A, column B, column C, column D. But one way or another, and this is the part where I have no idea what the answer is it has to get fixed. You look around the NFL and you see a bunch of people getting hurt on teams, and you see guys that are backups and stuff like that, and you say, oh, it's commonplace. But listen to that number of injuries that I was talking about. The list. How does this happen? How does this keep happening? So what's the answer? I don't know. What's the solution? Or what's the issue? It's a lot of things. Maybe it is stretching. Maybe it is the strength and conditioning coach. Maybe it is the way they're running their practices. Maybe it is the trainers. It might be all four of those things. 5 is, and the one that I'm offering is, the 49ers usually invest in players that are injury prone or get injured, right? You can't be like, oh wow, Ricky Pearsall has a hamstring injury. It's literally dealt with it in college time. So yeah, look, effective stretching and warm-ups will definitely reduce injury. Not hyperextended knees, not messed up shoulders, not messed up elbows. If you're talking about that, you're talking about hamstrings, soft tissue. That's fine. But this idea that stretching is going to stop people from rolling up behind CJ West and rolling on his knee, that has nothing to do with it. When someone rolls up on Michael Williams, stretching wasn't going to save him. It's not all stretching. It's a part of it. If you have hamstring injuries, then you probably might want to look at stretching. But stretching doesn't stop the things that... And the next factor I'm going to put in is just poor luck. Poor luck. CJ West is having a fantastic training camp. Someone rolls up behind him, hyperextended knee. Everybody holds their breath. ACL's intact, but he's going to miss a week. Stretching can't stop anything about that. Stretching won't stop anybody from stepping on Kyle Juszczyk's Achilles. Those are just freak accidents. It's bad luck. I mean, it's all over the place. It's the stretching. It's the bad luck. It's the players themselves. It's the strength and conditioning coach. It's the training staff. Like, it's all of those things. Everyone just wants one answer. Give me the one answer on how to fix this. There is no one answer. It's all of those things. When you draft players with checkered injury past and they get hurt, you can't play shocked. When you sign a player who has been constantly injured, but you like the player and you say, hey, if he's healthy. How many times have we heard that? If he's healthy. You can't blame the training staff. That's you investing in a player. Isaac Guerrero, love him. I think he's a great player. Injured all the time. Injured all the time in college. And he gets here and he's injured. You can't act surprised, right? So it's all of these things all together when you think about why the 49ers are so injury prone. It's the players, it's the coaching staff, it's bad luck, it's the training staff, it's the stretch, it's all of it. I just don't know how to fix it because it's not. Everyone just wants one reason. They want one way. They want, what's the one thing we change? You have to change it all. The thing is when you swing on players that have great ability, but they're injury prone, it's risk reward. And if they continue to be injured, that's the risk. If they're not injured, you get a great reward. That's the point. So it's not just, you know, stretching. Like that's the most popular thing that I keep seeing on Twitter, on the internet, is, oh, they need to stretch, they need to static stretch, they need to do. Fine. But how does static stretching help CJ West, who got rolled up on? Or Michael Williams? That's just bad luck. How does that help Ben Barch's elbow? Maybe it'll help Jason Pinnock's heel and Trey Brown's heel. Maybe. It's a foot injury. But when you think of stretching, you think of soft tissue. You think of all the other things. So 16 minutes in. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you guys hit like on this and subscribe to the channel and everything as well. The 49ers held joint practice today. Sounded like the 49ers defense kind of got worked. Ashton Genty ran for a bunch of big plays. They have nobody left on defensive line. They had 3 starters starting today. D. Winters, Diamador Lenore, and Fred Warner. And it sounded like the 49ers offense had their way. So that's good. That's fine. It does kind of highlight what I've thought about this team and what I think is their path to success, which is they're going to have the offense carry the defense for a little bit while they get up to speed, especially considering all the rookies, especially considering all the injuries. This has to be a season in which Kyle Shanahan's offense does the heavy lifting for them and scores touchdowns, not field goals, touchdowns. I think that's absolutely what we're kind of seeing right now. And it's being even put further to the test because now even the rookies are banged up. And now you're playing the guys behind the guys who were behind the rookies. Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, we still haven't seen either gross models. Michael Williams, CJ West, they're banged up. Alfred Collins coming along as best he can. Nick Bosa, neck soreness, that sounds crazy. Just stop running him out there and just get him out there for week 1. These things are all starting to pile up, and this defense, even if they start to get everybody back for week 1, you can't expect them to hit the ground running. Now, the only thing that you can expect is that Robert Saleh is going to put whoever's on the field in good position, a la Chase Lucas, which is why I put him in my winners column today. So, yeah, it looks a little bad right now, but the offense has to do the heavy lifting, which is great to hear about Ricky Pearsall. Kittle's been a star all training camp. It looks like he's primed to go in for a big season. Christian McCaffrey, again, almost 15 touches today. Looks very fast. Hasn't lost a step, in case anybody was wondering. So those guys are going to have to do the heavy lifting. There is a world where if Juwan Jennings isn't ready for week 1, if Demarcus Robinson is suspended, there is a world where Ricky Pearsall, Russell Gage, Jacob Cowan could be your top 3 wide receivers in week 1 against Seattle. There is a world where that happens. Hopefully not. Best case scenario is Jennings and Pearsall, but it's very possible right now. We don't know the nature of the calf injury. It's tough, right now. So the offense definitely has to lift a little bit more, and it's good to hear that. And I don't care who they're facing. The Broncos joint practices, it went up and down. The Broncos defense was shutting them out. After that, they came back and they did well in the red zone. The Raiders defense is nowhere near as fearsome, although George Kittle did speak to the media today, and he said that he sees so much of the old Seattle defense on there, which makes sense. Pete Carroll's there. But, yeah, it's going to be on the offense. And especially the first 4 weeks, given the schedule, you have a soft landing where you can kind of, get rolling. Seattle's going to be tough. I've been on board with Seattle having a tough defense, man. I really have been enjoying what I've been seeing from them scheme wise. And if that's the vanilla stuff that they're running with Mike McDonald's defense, oh baby, when they get everybody in there and they get all the exotic stuff that they really want to throw out there, it's going to kind of look like what he did with the Ravens. They just never had the personnel to run it that way. That's why he couldn't. But other than that, you have 3 or 5 games where, your offense can carry for a little bit. And that's why it was so important in training camp to have Ricky Pearsall come along and play the entire time, and Kittle and McCaffrey. It would have been really nice to see Juwan Jennings because you can't stumble out of the gate. I've said this 10, 15 times. You cannot stumble out of the gate here. With that schedule opening up the way it does, we can't go into week 4 and week 5 and say, well, they're finding it. Well, you have to hit the ground running. That's what's important about training camp. That's why it was kind of good to hear Kyle Shanahan say that he wants Brock to play on Saturday. I will be holding my breath on every single snap because the 49ers can literally not afford another injury to any position. But it is about getting these guys rolling and getting them like into week 1, and you can't come out in week 1 and play a funky game and then week 2 it's kind of clunky, and then week 3 we're like, well, it's early in the season and they didn't. No, 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 no. This season, 2025, this season, they cannot afford to start slow. Not on offense. They have to, because you have to expect, if you're being realistic about this defense, you have to expect this defense to start slow, given the injuries and given the rookies. You have to. You don't know that this defense is gonna. We're all excited. I think Robert Saleh is gonna do a lot of amazing things to cover up some things that are going wrong. Whether it's experience or or somebody who's lacking talent. But if you were gonna guess which side of the ball was gonna start slow, I think we'd all pick defense just based on all the new faces, and then throw in the injuries. And what if these guys are not ready for week 1? Things are gonna get really, really scary. So yeah, the offense has to roll. The offense has to roll to start, and it has to be the driving force of this team, early on while the defense catches up. And I saw a few reporters saying the same exact thing, that's what it kind of looked like today. But again, Nick Bosa didn't practice, and CJ West got rolled up on, and Michael's not practicing, and Collins is finding his way, and Kalia Davis is playing well. Evan Anderson's, he's a good rotational, depth piece. But if you're gonna roll into week 1, with, let's just say, Bosa, CJ West, Collins, and maybe Michael, depending, let's just say that actually kind of sounds like what we thought it would be. You still have to expect bumps and bruises, right? So I think the offense has a chance to really mitigate that and score a little bit more. So but Nally says, and good to see you. Remember, guys, drop a like on here. I appreciate you guys. Helps out the channel so much. If they need the offense to carry the team early, should the starting offense be playing any other preseason? Why risk anything at this point? Well, I do think it's important that they play a little, because the excuse we always give them when they start slow is, oh, well, they didn't play any preseason games. So yeah, it would be good to get them out there and see them throw the football a little bit. I think, was it last year was the first preseason game against the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. Brock threw a pass to Debo in Vegas, right? And Garendo had that almost kick return. I thought that was the first game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think we all thought Ronnie Bell was really good in that game as well too, right? If I'm tripping, let me know, guys. But I think that's that game. So it's weird because last year they ran their offense early on, and then week 1 they didn't play anybody, and then week 2 they're gonna play everybody. So the 3-game preseason schedule, it used to be 4, obviously, and they cut that down for injury concerns. But the dress rehearsal was always week 3. I would always play my fantasy drafts after week 3 because that was the dress rehearsal, and now all of a sudden all those guys are going to sit for week 4 and you have no worry about injury. Now different teams are doing different things, right? Some starting guys in week 1. Denver played their entire starting offense week 1. 49ers are going to probably play some of their guys this week. Will they use week 3 as the dress rehearsal, right? We just don't know. So I mean, it's a little weird how this thing is kind of playing out, but I think it's going off of the injuries as they happen with the 49ers. They're kind of playing it by ear. So Nathan Banks says, how do you feel about Matt Breida retiring? I wish we could have brought him on last season when CMC was out. Nothing against Jordan Mason, but Matt would have been great help too. Well, I mean, that's always kind of been my point, is that the 49ers, while they deal with all these injuries to the running back position, they're just going to call up old buddies. That's why Jeff Wilson's here. They're never really going to make a splash for anybody else or anything like that. And the same thing with the wide receiver position. They're just going to, the Robbie Chosens and the Equanimous St. Browns, who's on season-ending IR. Those are the ilk of receivers that they're going to be trying. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to see Matt Breida. Leon Sandcastle, what's up, bro? Do you think if Siegel continues to ball out, they would entertain trading Jair to Wilkes on the Jets? That's interesting, because I forget I think it was in my group chat. Someone asked, like, is Jair on the block? And when you hear Jason Pinnock and Richie Grant are out, and Malik Mustafa, I don't know if you have that luxury right now. Um, when you heard Kyle Shanahan talk about Malik Mustafa, he said, all the guys that have the same injury, which is Rourke, Mustafa, and Ayuk, he's like, week 5 is when I really start. So you're looking at 4 to 5 weeks at minimum where he's not going to play. Pinnock is someone that they're very high on. It's a heel injury. I don't know what that means for long term. But what if Pinnock doesn't play well? I don't know if they have that luxury right now to move him. And what would you suspect is the return for Tig? Like, you spent a third on him, and he fell out of favor. And the only way that you get something really high is if Steve Wilkes has a lot of influence with the Jets and goes to the front office like, oh, I can fix him and we can really use him. But I just don't know if they have that luxury. I guess they should revisit this when the safety room is completely filled out and everybody's there. For now, I don't think they have that luxury because today it was Brown and it was Siegel who were the 2 safeties. So, take it for what it's worth. He's coming back from the ankle injury as well. Don't think that that's probably not a red flag for a few teams and maybe just gives them a little bit of pause. But they have to wait for the safety room to be together, right? You have high hopes for Jason Pinnock, but you haven't seen it, right? What are you predicting? That's one thing. What do you know? That's another thing. What is happening? What, like, the new information as it rolls in? What does that mean? Is he going to be healthy? The same thing. Richie Grant's not healthy right now. The whole team's not healthy. So I don't know. I don't know if they have that luxury right now, but if they feel confident enough in Pinnock and Siegel, and then they know Mustafa's coming back, and those are the 3, and then they can roll with Richie Grant, they feel like they have 4 guys that are competent and they are healthy, then yeah, I would entertain it. Probably at the deadline. But right now, I just don't think that you can afford to do that just based on the state of this safety room right now. It doesn't look good right now. So shout out to everybody in here. Almost 30 minutes, almost 40 people. Make sure you guys like this video. The 49ers joint practice is over earlier today with the Las Vegas Raiders. Kyle Shanahan said that he hopes that Brock Purdy plays. I'm just going to turn myself blue holding my breath the entire game because the 49ers cannot take any more injuries to any more positions. I'll take some questions if you guys have, and I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to get on here. Felt like talking about the injury thing. Felt like talking about what happened today, and the 49ers have a walkthrough tomorrow, and I think that's when we'll really get a firm, definitive plan about whether the starters are going to play on Saturday. Kyle Shanahan said that as much. So, and then Saturday's the game. So, we'll figure that out. Man, those guys they practice so early. Because it's so hot. Like, by the time the practice was over, it was almost 100 degrees. Like, how do they do this outside? So, other things, obviously, is, I wanted to hear a little bit more about the wide receivers. There was that one really nice play from Tariq Owens. Yay. But my God, is this wide receiver room is getting thin. It's just getting very thin. Didn't really hear too much about Jacob Cowan today. Robbie Chosen is there. Russell Gage is definitely going to make this team. I think if you didn't believe it before, given the injuries, he's a lock at this point. So what are going to be the 6 though? The part that I struggle with when it comes to the 53-man roster, and I think it's going to be 6 receivers, is the Junior Bergen thing. Junior Bergen is a primary returner, and yes, he does play wide receiver, but can the 49ers keep just a primary returner in that wide receiver room who offers them not much in case he was pressed into duty? I don't think they can. And I think they'll try to stash him on the practice squad, and they'll try to get by with punt returns with Cowing and Garendo whenever he comes back. So, let's see. Tony says, if you had the last pick and turn in a snake draft, would you take George Kittle on the turn? I'm taking George Kittle anywhere that I can get him this season. He's going to have an electric season. If you're talking about fantasy football, I'm taking him wherever I can get him. He's going to have a huge season. He's going to get all the targets. Has to be him. Leon Sandcastle, if Bourne gets cut in a couple weeks, should they call him? They absolutely should. They should. 3.5 weeks until week 1. You know, when you look at that Patriots depth chart, Keyshawn Booty, Stephon Diggs, who said, he has a chance that he might not be ready for week one. All world, all already Hall of Famer wide receiver Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas. He could be on the outside looking in. He could. And I wouldn't be against that. Now, what I was against was last year everybody was like, "Oh, trade for Bourne." I'm not trading anything for Kendrick Bourne. I'm not sending a pick, any pick for him. But if I can get him for free, yeah. Or I mean, you have to sign him to a contract. But yeah, I definitely, again, uh veteran receiver. I've seen this 49ers offense do more with less in 2019, right? It was really just Kendrick Bourne. Debo was just finding his way. They made the trade for Emmanuel Sanders. Um, but I don't think the 49ers are as barren in week one. Like Marquise Goodwin was like one of their starters. Like it was pretty bad. I don't think it'll be that bad. As long as Jennings and Pearsall are there, you should be fine, honestly. So, Big Brick says, I think with how thin we are, Gage and Chosen likely to make it. Man, if I would have told you guys in the Lord's big year of 2025 that Robbie Chosen would be counted on to take snaps eventually for the 49ers, we'd say this is the worst case scenario. But it is true and it is very likely. I think Russell Gage is a lock. I think given all of the injuries, I don't see how. So Jennings, Watkins, Ayuk, Pearsall, Cowing, Gage, 6. They probably need a little bit more than that, right? Just in case of make sure for injury. So they'll probably stash somebody on the practice squad. But those are the 6 I probably have right now. But then given, Ayuk probably starting on PUP, they could probably take somebody else. Who would that be? Robbie Chosen probably. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting the roster gymnastics that they do on cutdown day. To get down from 90 to 53 like everybody else is it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. Keys says McCaffrey will be our best wide receiver. If you're gonna have shortcomings at a wide receiver group, my big brain thought has always been throw the ball to George Kittle, who's the best tight end in football. Throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey and use him as a wide receiver just so you could limit that wear and tear on his body and just have him stop running through the tackles the entire time. Now, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I will say this. Given the injuries, right? And given what we saw today with the usage of Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan is not going to take off the gas on Christian McCaffrey. Like, full on 300 touches, never coming off the field. That's what I'm preparing myself for. 15 touches today in the heat. Patrick Taylor's on this roster. Jeff Wilson's on this roster. Garendo's still hurt. Jordan James is hurt. I just see Kyle Shanahan going back to just spamming Christian McCaffrey. I don't know what that means, just because everybody is literally saying that he's healthy. But if I had my way, I would literally be using Christian McCaffrey almost in that Debo role as a wide receiver, and have him come run around on pitches and stuff like that. Like banging him in between the tackles is just, I don't know, man. I think the path to better production is less touches. The efficiency goes through the roof. The more you touch the football, your efficiency is going to go down. The more you throw the football, your efficiency goes down. The more the ball's thrown at you, the efficiency goes down, right? Like the efficiency is always going to drop with more. But I think the key to success for McCaffrey is less. And that's why it would have been so great to have Garendo, play, but Garendo's hurt, as he has been, unfortunately. There's a scenario where you have Kittle, you have McCaffrey, and you have Pearsall all lined up as receivers, and you have Garendo in the backfield. That way, the defense doesn't know what's coming, and you can run the football. And you have 3 guys that are going to be tough to cover. I guess in my mind, I'm just thinking about matchups and just thinking about mismatches. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's, I'm sure he sees it differently. But I envision Christian McCaffrey getting a little less, like take a little off of his plate and keep him efficient, right? And you need him to get through the season if you want anything from that. But now he says, purely hypothetical. If the Saints are going nowhere fast, what's Chris Olave worth in a trade at the deadline given his injuries if we're getting really silly? Well, literally when we were talking about injuries before, um, the stretching thing comes up. Obviously, that helps limit soft tissue injuries. But the 49ers and their upper management have their own blame in this because they draft players with checkered injury past and they sign players who have been injured a bunch. Right? What's the famous phrase for any 49ers player that is new? If he's healthy. And this would be right up the 49ers alley. I think Chris Olave is one of the best receivers that came out of that draft class. I was so high on him and Garrett Wilson, but the concussions. Um it would be so like the 49ers to get somebody like that and then, and then he gets a concussion and we're like, "Oh, it was stretching." "Oh, the strength and conditioning coach." No. Part of the blame of the injuries for this team are the players that they invest in with checkered injury paths. Isaac Guerrero was banged up the entire time in college, and now they're looking around like, man, he can't stay healthy. But I'd love that. In a perfect world, Chris Olave's healthy. Yes. Oh my God, man. Oh, in a perfect world, Ayuk comes back in week 6, and Olave and Ayuk are across from each other with Ricky Pearsall in the slot and in 3 wide receiver sets. Oh my God, the amount of damage they cause. I love Olave. I think he's an amazing player, but it's the injuries, right? It's the concussions. It's a little scary. So, Key says Gage and Hodgins are going to get a lot of snaps this season. They're going to deliver because Kyle makes everyone look better. I mean, that's a good way to look at it too. I mean, wide receivers are running open. I mean, if all other people, or detractors, if all they ever say is, well, it's easy to play quarterback for the 49ers, there's always guys running wide open, then why wouldn't we believe that on our own, right? And we've seen it. Like I think Juwan Jennings had a great season, but so much of that was his ability, one, to win on 50-50 balls, and two, him getting schemed open. I think it was like, it wasn't the last sprint red option, but it was the one before that where I broke down the scissors concept and how Jennings got basically sprung open because the Patriots jumped on, it was cover 4. The safety jumped down based on past tendencies on Brock Purdy on George Kittle, thinking that the return route was the throw, and Juwan Jennings got leverage and got open based on that, right? So that's Kyle Shanahan scheming it open. Now, also, it is Brock Purdy throwing the football to him for a deep completion because he's the only one who would throw that. Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't have thrown that. So yeah, that helps too. But yeah, if we're talking about, whenever you hear somebody talking crazy about the 49ers, they're like, well, anybody could play quarterback. Guys are running wide open. Then I think it's fair to say that if Russell Gage and Isaiah Hodgins have to get on the field, that they will have their opportunities. Hodgins was good for the Giants when he was here. He just got pushed out as a numbers game, really, more than anything. And I think he's a Stockton guy, right? Like I think Crocky was saying that he's a Stockton guy, so he is a Cali boy. So yeah, I mean, I think we all anticipate Kyle Shanahan and the way that he's able to scheme up these guys because we've seen him make players look, much better, right? Like Kendrick Bourne's never looked better than he did with Kyle Shanahan, right? You know, um, he basically revitalized Emmanuel Sanders' career for a little while. Well, him in the offense, but yeah. Let's see. Hell, Kamara would be a decent addition too if we could get him. I love Alvin Kamara, man. But yeah, he's somebody that you definitely have to limit. You definitely can't give him the football a bunch of times. And in fact, the Saints are already talking about that and not getting him, banged up in between the tackles. Benali says they already have a 30-year-old running back. Yep. Leon Sandcastle says Hodgins was a clutch red zone guy in New York. Um, EB says if we go 6-11, Kyle got to go. So I'm guessing that everybody heard what Kyle Shanahan said on XM Sirius Radio. Let me know in the chat, guys. So to paraphrase, Kyle Shanahan said, "We're just hoping to get better as the season goes on and clinch a playoff berth and get it." And that really made some people upset. It didn't make me upset. Because I think if you're talking about, okay, what is he speaking into existence? What is the coach telling his team? Realistically, 40 if you're the most hardcore 49er fan, please just look me in my eye and I want to hear it from you. What makes you believe that this team is a Super Bowl bound team without the help of some extreme luck, injury luck, bad injury luck to other teams? Like, I had nothing, I had no problem with what he said. Because what he's saying is, we want to sneak in. And what are the 49ers? How many years did the 49ers make the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo? And everyone's saying, oh, well, you don't want to play the 49ers. They're hot. They're deep. That's what he was talking about. I had no problem with that. That's not him waving the white flag on the season. What did you want him to say? Did you want him to say, we're going to go 20-0 and win the Super Bowl? That's unrealistic. I thought it was a very reasonable and realistic take. Because it is true. Just for all the reasons that I spoke about earlier. The defense is going to be slow to start. The offense is going to have to carry. You have to mitigate all those injuries that you have going on. Like, this team isn't like bound for the Super Bowl. They're not. This team is the most top-heavy 49ers roster under Kyle Shanahan during his entire time. And I know that I've preached many teams in the NFL don't have depth. But it seems like this season, if things go wrong injury-wise, the season comes apart because of who's backing up these players. Fred Warner plays through everything. We saw what happened to this defense when Nick Bosa went away. If Trent Williams misses games, Spencer Burford's your left tackle. Austin Pleasance is going to make this team as the right tackle behind Colton McKivitz. And what's funny is all the shit that people talk about Colton McKivitz now, he has become such a pivotal player on this team that cannot miss time. Just saying. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, can Isaac Guerrero, handle everything? If D. Winters is hurt, Nick Martin, it sounds like he's a ways away. If Bernardo Green and Diamador Lenore go down, do you believe Dallas Flowers and Trey Brown are the answer? So the 49ers are banking on two things. One, that their offense scores a lot more touchdowns. And two, that their core of very, very good players, of the best in the league at certain positions, like Fred Warner, like George Kittle, like Trent Williams, like Nick Bosa, that they carry this team. They have to do more of the lifting this year because of what's behind them on the roster. When we used to talk about how deep this roster was, we would be talking about, man, this guy could be a backup and could be starting for someone else. And then you notice, they revitalize Omenihu, he goes and moves on. Arden Key moves on, right? Like, guys, these were guys that were behind other players. The 49ers don't have that this year. They don't. So this idea that the 49ers are loaded and some sort of Super Bowl bound roster team, can they beat the Philadelphia Eagles right now, today, August 14th, without seeing any games? I'm probably going to say no. And they're the class of the NFC. So I had no problem with what Kyle Shanahan said. He said, we just need to get better throughout the season and get into the playoffs. And I think he meant be that team that nobody wanted to face, right? Remember, the 49ers could go into Green Bay and they can go in there and they could win against Aaron Rodgers. The 49ers can go into Dallas, they can go in there, they can beat Dak Prescott. Nobody wanted to play the 49ers. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't waving the white flag on the season. He wasn't saying anything that was wrong. I thought it was a very reasonable and realistic expectation. And I think if you're talking about that, every player's goal is to win a Super Bowl. Every team and every coach's goal is to win a Super Bowl. But you can't win the Super Bowl until you get in the playoffs. And I keep talking about the NFC and how many playoff teams there are. And I keep getting back to this one point. I think the NFC West, the winner of that division is going to be the only playoff team in there. Because I've done the numbers. Washington's in. Philly's in. Whoever's going to win the NFC South, let's just say Tampa Bay. Right? That's 3. That NFC North, Lions, Packers, Vikings, all three of those teams could make it. If the Bears take a step, the Bears could be one of those three teams. We're already at 6. There's 7 playoff teams. The math. So yeah, I think that's what he's talking about. The math isn't there. 2 teams from the NFC West probably aren't going to make the playoffs. It's going to be the division winner. You might have a situation where the NFC North has 3 teams that makes the playoffs. Washington and Philly are going to be the other 2. And then you've got the division winner of the NFC South. That's 6. Someone's going to be fighting for that 7th spot. It's going to be tough. So that's all he was saying, is he understands the uphill battle with the defense and what they're going to face. And he understands that when the 49ers are rolling and they get into the playoffs and they are playing their best football and they're hot, they're a team, again, that the 49ers, that the NFL doesn't want to play. And if you don't believe me, look at all the years that the 49ers went in with Jimmy Garoppolo. The only year that people were like, oh, weren't saying that about the 49ers was 2023 when they ran away with everything, and they were the number 1 seed. But that's what he was talking about. He's not talking about ending the season early, or he's not talking about packing it in or waving the white flag. That's not at all what it is. Did you really want him to go in there and say, we're going to go 20-0, we're going to win the Super Bowl, we're ready to go, we're ready to roll, with all these injuries and all these rookies? You want him to be truthful, and yet when he is truthful, you think he's waving the white flag. I thought it was absolutely reasonable. I thought it was realistic. I thought it was refreshing. 3 R's. It was cool. I'm good with that. They were very honest. I like that. It tells me that this team is not living in La La Land anymore. This isn't Revenge Tour 7.0. This is a team that knows what they're capable of. They know their ceiling. They know what they need to do. I'm fine with it. I had no issue with it. None whatsoever. But if you want to hear them say, we're running it back, Revenge Tour 7.0, the brick by brick, shut up with that shit. I don't care about any of that. Enough with the taglines. Maybe just being realistic and maybe just understanding your limitations sounds good. And that's what I took away from it. Kyle is very frank, isn't very frank, right? He doesn't give you much. But when he does, and he's truthful, now you guys want to kill him. I thought it was reasonable. And I'm not saying you guys that are watching. I'm just saying there was people out there that were very outraged. They're still crying about it right now. It's very reasonable. Very reasonable. Like, I had no problem with it. I thought it was refreshing. So, Key says, who are your top 5 teams in the NFL, and how far back are the Niners from the top 5? The Niners are, right now, they're like 15 to 17 right now. Just based on injuries, right? If we're starting the season today, I'm not going to put the Niners up, right? But all those injuries are crazy. And, when you look at that defensive line, who were they running out there today, man? Good thing it's not week 1, so, you can take that. I guess the better time to ask me this would be when we figure out who's going to be up for week 1 and, what this team's going to look like, because right now, if you're running that team out there and Connor Colby or Nick Zackel is your left guard, and, Nick Bosa's not going to be able to play because of his neck soreness, and, Pinnock's still hurt, and Bernardo Green's still not playing, man, this team is like way off. I guess when they're healthy, you probably put them in that 10-12 range. I think that's fair. But the top 5 teams, you got Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Broncos. I don't know if I have the Chiefs in there anymore, man. I'm done with that. Man. I think Washington has a really, really good claim to that as well. The Broncos, we got to see. They are the team with the highest variance. They have a top 2 defense. I've talked about that a bunch. But yeah, I think the 49ers, if they're all healthy, they're in that 10 to 12 range. I think that's very fair. But right now, they're probably outside of the top 15 based on all the injuries. Like, Jawan Jennings doesn't play week 1. And, you're out there with Pearsall and Gage. And Nick Bosa's not playing. And, the 2 starting safeties are not there. And it's Siegel and it's my goodness, and it's Jair Brown. And Bernardo Green's not playing. And Dallas Flowers is out there. Like, that, that stuff is That stuff will put any team behind. So, Tony says, I want to see Zach will take snaps to center. Oh, well, respect Jake Brendel, pal, because Chris Forrest is, you'll get that position from his cold, dead hand, man. All right, guys, 50 minutes, 43 people in here. Guys, please leave a like. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Just wanted to jump in real quick. Tomorrow, wanted to update you guys with the content. Tomorrow, Sprint Right Option lunchtime show, 3 o'clock my time, noon your time, and me and Dieter Kurtenbach tomorrow at 1:30, talking about 2025 season expectations. Please tune into that. Shout out to Dieter. Dieter and Hutch, those guys, they do a great job. But he's going to be jumping on with me. We're going to be talking all of that stuff tomorrow. So a lot more content going on. And then Saturday, obviously, we have 49er football. Shout out to all you guys for tapping in. Everything as well, too. Drop a like on this video. It helps the channel out so much. If you're new here, please subscribe. And, if you're thinking about doing extra perks, you can join the channel as well, too. Got some extra things that I need to, iron out before I announce. But, we're back. The season's about to start. Things are rolling. Some exciting things on the way. So, I don't know, man. Brad's Hollywood, man. I don't know. I don't know. Brad's Hollywood, man. Y'all gotta talk to Brad. Y'all gotta start spamming him in the on Twitter or whatever it is. Y'all gotta start spamming him. That's out of my hands. Axel says, and new K Trinata. Oh my god. And if you guys are looking for something to watch, Alien Earth, the first 2 episodes were absolutely excellent. Oh my god. Absolutely excellent. I watched both of them last night as well. So good. If anybody's looking for a new show to watch, Alien Earth, they're not paying me. On Hulu was so good. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have be safe. Have dinner with your family. Take care and everything as well too. And as always, let's go Niners.